Hey, what is going on, you guys? Welcome to One of Each, the Dumb and Hungry podcast, where we talk about our food adventures and our favorite food groups. I'm Angelo, the Dumb and Hungry.
And I'm Macho.
And thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing all right. Macho, do you know why I am feeling excited today?
Because the Dodger season started?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly why.
I mean, you're always wearing a hat. I assume you're a huge fan.
I'm always wearing this LA hat, representing proud of my boys in blue. That's how you say it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So you catch any of the games?
Yeah, there's that Otani, right? And that and the gambling. You know, that's it's very rampant. Yeah, look. To talk about it more, let's bring in a couple of our correspondents here, our colleagues, if you will. Bring them back. Let's welcome back John and Daniel. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good. Also super excited for the Dodgers, right? Yes.
You see, look at that. You see?
Also, this is an episode about food, not about the Dodgers.
They did a short recently where they asked all the players where their favorite restaurants in LA are. It's pretty interesting. There's one, I forgot who called him out, but somebody called out Alan Rice.
Oh, nice. Okay.
The manager said Girl and the Goat is his go-to spot. So, yeah, pretty interesting reel.
If you share that with us, we'll share that with the rest of the world. And by the world, I mean no one.
Our few and only fans.
Absolutely. So, that'd be good. In the meantime, yeah, again, John and Daniel, hope you're doing okay. Last time we talked, we were sharing about our our exotic meal at Poltergeist. And we had a good meal there, and I'm sure a lot has happened since, but I don't know what. But let me start with John, actually. John, what's going on with you?
Nothing.
Moving on. Great. This is quality programming, people.
When was Poltergeist? Can you remind me?
Some time ago. It was quite a while ago.
Was it 2023 or prior?
Late 2023.
Late 23. What's happened since late 23?
A lot, actually.
A lot has happened since late 23. A few friends had babies. A lot of Disneyland trips. And then there was a Mexico City trip sprinkled in there.
Okay, good. Well, we'll get into that a little bit, but those are the highlights there.
The babies?
I hope not.
Not what people came for today. They came for the Dodgers.
Not today. They came for the sports play-by-play stat breakdown. Who done it and how did he do it?
All right. Well, how about you, Daniel? What's going on with you?
Nothing huge. We the company I work for kind of had some big milestones, some games released, which is cool. I think since we last talked, but what was it? I think probably a big highlight for the last few months was watching Dune 2. That movie was so dope. Big fan. Pretty much just you put a really giant worm on a really giant screen with really giant speakers, and it's a great time. It's a pretty simple movie formula, but it works.
Do you have to watch Dune 1 to appreciate the sequel, the continuation, if it is?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to skip. There is no let's try to ease the audience in. It's pretty much like right where Dune 1 left is where Dune 2 starts. So they kind of assume that you're with the program.
Got it. Is Dune a delicacy as well? Can you you summon these and then you no?
To be honest, I don't know if they had any things of food in the movie. I don't want to know what food they ate actually in the desert. It seems like it'd be pretty rough.
I mean, the worms just ate people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen this movie, Angelo, but this question seems like you have no idea what these worms do.
They have a popcorn bucket?
That's the ticket right there. The popcorn bucket.
Is that the moneymaker? That's the true moneymaker?
No, it was the meme maker. It was the internet blew up because they released a promotional popcorn bucket to promote the movie. And it's basically just the popcorn bucket, but they put on top of it a plastic mold of the worm, which is basically just a giant vacuum with bristles. And you have to reach into this bristled bucket to reach your popcorn. And then as you pull your hand out, you have to fight the bristles because they're going to fight you back for the popcorn.
I'm waiting for that to be the new thing in movies. Like every movie gets a themed popcorn bucket. So like, I don't know, like Star Wars re-release gets like the Darth Maul bucket with like his head spikes sticking out, or like Fast and Furious gets like, you know, like a family. Bucket. I don't know.
It's 4 buckets glued together. It's a family bucket. It's family sticks together.
Or as you insert your hand in the bucket, you have Vin Diesel saying it's for family, you know, family or whatever, you know, every time you reach in. Yeah.
Not distracting at all during a movie.
Mailto, what's going on with you? What's been going on since we last saw each other?
Since last week, honestly, I don't remember. Did I talk about? I did. When Oli had a couple of friends over, and there was the Moonbridge donuts.
You did. Mm-hmm.
Dang, I already talked about that. Other than that,
did you finish those donuts?
Yeah, the next day.
I was surprised. I thought it'd be that very evening, but
well, I mean, you gotta save some for others, right? But then when they leave, it's all mine.
I see.
You guys already talked about that Thai Cambodian restaurant from a couple weeks ago, and how eating there was like shopping for health services, and that you had no idea what you're going to pay until the bill came out.
We did. We
not in those words,
but that's a good way of putting it. That's why you're here. Bring some perspective into this dining experience.
You missed out the most critical part of that dining experience.
What, the healthcare?
Not knowing how much you're paying going into it.
Well, do they offer insurance where they like you can pay $50 up front and that covers you whether you're like higher or lower?
You have to pay a deductible when you first get in, so then you wouldn't escape, and then they bill you after the meal for the remainder of your patient balance or customer balance, I guess. No, it was just this place where, you know how like for most restaurants there's a mix of fixed pricing on the menu, and then there'll be like seafood or some protein where you have market price. Literally everything at this restaurant was market price.
Yeah.
Papaya salad, market price. Drinks, market price.
So they're literally like they're going to GW in the morning, looking at their bill and being like, "Well, that papaya was like $3 today." So
right.
That sounds right.
Exactly.
And no itemized receipt either, so it's could be anything. The drink could have been $50 on its own.
And cash only. Anyways, they're all symptoms of fraud.
Yeah. Just like that book you're reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think Daniel saw this, but Angelo went through this painstaking exercise of scouting other Cambodian and Thai restaurants, looking for equivalent dishes in the area and finding what was the menu price at those respective places and plotting it on a chart to compare against how much our place supposedly charged us, not adjusted for inflation from 6 years ago.
this sounds like a very valuable exercise and something that we should be doing frequently.
Yes. This is the kind of conversations we need to have in our current days. Yes.
Right. The CPI index is not good enough. We should develop our own and maintain it for specific ethnic foods.
But as for me, you know, I am continuing to eat, find more things to eat, and just wanted to share a few things recently. Some places we've mentioned in the past and whatnot. One such place is a pop-up called Hamburgers Nice. They're out there in Long Beach, and they're making some good smash burgers out there. You know, they serve out of a coffee spot or some place called Good Time, and during their breakfast service, they serve out these kind of breakfast smash burgers, and then during lunch or dinner, then they'll serve out kind of more dinner things. So I think my recent visit, they were serving out burgers with the take of like kind of an In-N-Out style smash. So, you know, you have a smash burger, but then kind of in that In-N-Out style, particularly notably with like chopped chilies. You know, if you know the move, you get those. And then some kind of animal style fries as well. Pretty nice combo. And and obviously that didn't quench or quell my hunger. So I paid another visit to a brewery nearby, and there's a pop up there called Smoke and Salted Barbecue, and some of the things that were serving out there included actually a smash burger and a kind of also a smash style food, but using longanisa. Maisha, you might be familiar with that sweet sausage. John is nodding his head as well. The sweet.
There's a whole
Filipino
song in
food.
high school.
What?
Can you remind us?
I can't. You will lose the last 2 followers you've had if I were to replay it for you.
There's a song. Wait, what do you mean there's a song in high school?
If you find it, share it with us, and we'll share it with the few and only. So, anyway, but it was a longanisa, but like in a smash patty, served with like a fried egg, some things like that. Now moving on to K-Town, I visited out there recently, and there's a Korean barbecue restaurant that I tried out called Meat Love Korean Barbecue, and I don't know if anyone's been out there, but I think
It sounds familiar.
yeah, it as far as value to quality, I think is a strong contender of getting a great meal. So there are 2 tiers that I'm aware of, as far as the types of meat you can get, and the the lower tier is only like $27 versus the top tier, which is like $32. But even with that first tier, you get a pretty good amount of meats to choose from. I think notably for me, for some reason, I'm looking for a good rib finger, and the quality of that and all the other meats, the brisket, they have a nice garlic pork belly as well. And they also have, for their sides, they have this kimchi rice lunchbox. I don't know if you guys ever had that either on its own, or I don't know if any other place is serving it like this. But it's, it's just think of a rectangular tin, filled with kimchi rice, just, as the name says. And then what you do is that you actually shake the box and, to mix it up and whatever. So it's kind of this nice comfort food to have along with all the K barbecue you're enjoying as well. And then one other thing. Oh yeah, back to smash burgers. John, I know you mentioned at one point you had caught your attention with this place For the Win, and I was in the area and I decided to pay a visit there. Revisit. I think I visited sometime before, but it's a good spot. I mean, it's a solid spot, great smash burger. I don't know what else to say. It's interesting. I thought I had come across someone saying like, if you, it's like their take is like all smash burgers taste the same. Like if you have your favorite smash burgers, like I already know what it tastes like because they're all the same. I don't know if that holds true necessarily, but I'm sure if it's good.
I've had a similar theory, or not theory, but like I guess a personal issue, which is I try to go to all these hot LA burger places, and they're all good burgers, but I haven't had a shitty burger in a long time. So it's like I wonder now. I'm like, you start to have these, and you're like, this is good, this is good, this is good, and I'm like, are these all good, or like are they all actually average, and I just haven't had like a bad burger in a while? I don't know. I feel like I need to just go get some McDonald's again and recalibrate. I feel like that's what's missing from my
well, even then with McDonald's, I think particularly, like, they are moving away as far as, the supposedly like lower price market, right? So they're like trying to up their game, their quality and whatnot. Not sure what that really means or what that translates to. So I don't know if where that sets the standard any longer, or what is considered a low quality burger these days.
Are they upping their game, or are they just upping their prices?
Just the prices, honestly.
Basically the prices.
I know the prices are going up. I haven't heard anything about the burgers becoming better quality.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you take there's some some of the news of them announcing their changes to like the Big Mac, for example. They were planning to Yeah, just look that up. I don't know. Look, I'm just saying. Well, I guess.
So yeah, the lesson is if I want to find a shitty burger with which to judge the good burgers against, it's not McDonald's anymore. I need to go find somewhere.
Hopefully, yeah, generally, they'll do it right. They'll smash it thin, they'll get a nice crispy edge, and then as far as what you're saying, some of these add-ons on there. I mean, traditionally, a smash burger, Maicho, we've talked about this before, can be pretty plain. I mean, it doesn't have to have much on there. You just have your meat, cheese, and bun. I mean, that's as basic as you get. If you want to add other things, it's typically like onions or pickles or something. Condiment wise, otherwise, you're not even really putting things like ketchup on there. But yeah, there's a lot of different takes, a lot of different styles on the smash burger, especially here in LA now. Whether it's with the sauce or other toppings as well. For the win, as far as their add-ons, they offer, for example, like bacon and jalapenos or whatever. You just add that on there. But otherwise, yeah, they do have a sauce as well. And I think with them, their bun, they use a potato bun, but they seem to toast it a little more because, from my experience with smash burgers that offer potato buns, they're lightly toasted, but more or less they're just really kind of plushy, almost gummy. Not saying that in a bad way. That's just the texture you get from a potato bun. But in this case, it's just more toasted. So I think it just kind of has a little bit more structure, holds up a little more to the overall burger. So yeah, maybe we'll have to kind of do take some time to compare or whatever and see what else is out there. I don't know.
I think that the burgers are starting to taste the same when you have to differentiate them by how long they toasted their buns for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, speaking of food, let's continue to talk about that. I want to thank you guys and also thank our listeners, really our few and only fans, for joining us as we talk about some of our food adventures, these local spots, pop-ups, things in between with good food and good people. I wanted to follow up on a couple things here from some previous episodes. Really, a previous episode we've done, Maicha, we covered, really now that since it's been really, we probably covered about maybe close to 90 places, almost 90 places you could like eat in LA. And we've conquered various areas in the Los Angeles region. From central LA to the San Gabriel Valley, the South Bay, and all areas in between. But just a few items of, errata, I guess. There was in a city I was mentioning, the city of Bellflower, where I had listed a few restaurants in there. There was a taco restaurant, and then a horchata spot that also has a sandwich spot in there, birote. Those two, the horchata spot and the sandwich spot, they're actually in Paramount, so they're not in Bellflower. So again, not that anyone listens or cares to correct, but just to kind of set that straight, I've updated the notes as well. But just letting people know that. And then also the horchata place I refer to as Horchateria, which is incomplete. The full name of that restaurant is Horchateria Rio Luna. Again, not that anyone cares or that anyone's keeping track, but now you guys know. And then lastly, we were talking about this earlier about our visit to to Long Beach in Cambodia town. But I had referred to that neighborhood as Little Cambodia, which again is not accurate. It is in fact called Cambodia Town. So moving on to kind of the main stuff of today, we brought John and Daniel here, probably to much of their regret and reluctance, to kind of talk about a couple things. The first of which about a trip that they've recently taken, and so I wanted to kind of let them share about that and a lot of the food stuff, maybe some non-food stuff, but mostly food stuff. about that. So, John, I'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what I'm talking about here?
About Mexico City in
That's
terms
right.
of what we ate.
That would be preferred.
So a
I mean,
lot of the stuff that you can find was that there.
do we do anything else in Mexico City? It's or when I'm trying
No,
to
we
think,
did
like
not.
that was pretty much it.
That's correct. We traveled strictly to eat. We found activities to do mostly by happenstance. Some of them was research. Two things are research. Thank you, Daniel. But the rest of it was food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean the food scene. There's a lot of proper restaurants, fine dining. There's also a lot of street food, so you can kind of get the whole gamut. It's not too different from LA in terms of the kinds of things that you can find. We ate a lot of tacos and tostadas and a ton of churros, although we didn't really diversify. We really went to two places. One of them was preferred over the other. Had a few horchatas, some quesadillas, kind of the stuff that, again, you would find in LA, but just different preparations or different inspirations or just different stories behind them.
Why don't you give us a few examples, either you or Dan, give us a few examples of those places. Drop some names and, give us examples of what you would get from there.
Fire away, Daniel.
Yeah, I gotta bring up this like spreadsheet that you guys made, all the accounts, putting all their restaurants in a Google spreadsheet.
Well, there you go.
And a Google map.
Let's see. Yeah, Mexico City 2024 spreadsheet. All right, what do we got? We got Tostadas Coyoacán, so that's a tostada place. We've got Taqueria El Purix. Those were that was a taco stand. Got Lardo, breakfast place. Taqueria Orinoco, another taco stand. This one's specializing in al pastor. We got churros were El Moro. So that was our number one churro place, which fortunately has a spot in San Juan Capistrano, I think now too, or somewhere in the OC. So don't have to fly to Mexico City just for that anymore. We got, I don't know. All right. So there's some places that aren't in the spreadsheet, so I'm in trouble now. But basically, a lot of options.
Good. So where in the city? I mean, I don't really know the scale. I mean, how far did you kind of venture off within this, in the city or otherwise?
So good question. So the city is huge in terms of like where people actually live. One of the people we talked to basically said there's a lot of people who drive in like 2 hours from the outskirts of the city to get into work. So the city itself is massive. But in terms of places that are good for tourists, there's really just like 3, maybe 4 neighborhoods. And those I'd say are like each one has like walkable sections, but then to get to each one, you're probably going to want to drive. That being said, the Ubers are so dirt cheap that you never really you don't have to overly plan and be responsible. You're like, oh, let's try to do this. It's like, oh, it's $3 to Uber over there. Yay. Like it's the blessing of living and making American dollars.
Yeah, it goes farther. So from all the places that you had mentioned so far that you can recall from because of the spreadsheet, which of those would you say stood out and why?
I guess I have a few standouts in different categories.
Go ahead.
Most alarming and disappointing, maybe to get that out of the way first, we went to what we thought was an elote stand because we're like, we like elote, like we like Mexican street corn, like this is good. And we tried to do the responsible thing of they're like, do you want lime? Yeah. Do you want like salsa? Like yeah. Like do you want put it all in? Like anything you ask, like just put it in. By the time we got it, we're all like, yeah, no, this is terrible. Just did not work.
So the additional context behind that was we went to the wrong elote lady. It turns out there's many elote ladies throughout Mexico City, throughout the little neighborhood we were in, which is right by Frida Kahlo's house. So we thought we had found the place that we had researched, but as soon as we walked to the next street corner, there were more vendors. And the next street corner, there were more vendors. So we suspect we did not get the right one.
Yeah. So
there are plenty. I don't think there's any shortage of eloteros and otherwise over there. So
yeah, so that's the one I'll just say, like, that was the only thing I think we ate that whole trip where I was like, nope, like I'm not eating, like I'm not finishing this. Like I had my like 4 bites and I'm good.
No. So remind me, were you saying that spot did not serve like elote like as you expected, or it just didn't, or it did, it just wasn't at like the level that you expected at all?
I think both. Like, it wasn't quite the dish we had in mind. Like,
okay,
compared to eating similar stuff in LA, and then B, like, there's probably a way that dish could be really good, but it wasn't there.
Okay, all right. So we got that out of the way. What are the more notable spots there?
Yeah, I think the one, I'll say like kind of nice dining. That this was. We kind of sat down, dressed up, like paid. I think. What did it end up being, like $40 US a person, which for Mexico City was decently expensive. A restaurant called Contramar, that was delicious. Maybe we can talk about that one more later because that kind of goes into the next restaurant I know you want to talk about at some point, Angelo. But that was a really good seafood restaurant, delicious.
Good. John, what about any standouts for you?
So Contramar would be my number one standout as well. The other place that I always think about is a place called Jenny's Quesadilla. And it's just this woman on the street vending quesadillas, blue corn handmade quesadillas. And the reason why it sticks out to me is because so many TripAdvisor reviews said that she would be mean if you did not speak to her in Spanish. And if you if you didn't say please or say thank you, she'd be really rude. And so I was the one tasked with ordering everything. And I remember just being on edge talking to this woman. I'm like, please don't let my Spanish go bad now. Not that it was great to begin with, but don't let this go sideways where she ends up serving us something other than what we asked for. But she ended up being perfectly nice and very pleasant. And yeah, she was busy. And I think they start cooking there really early and they cook till they sell out. We got there around 4 p.m. But all the stuff that we wanted, she had sold out, but we tried some other things and they were all really good. She was nice and worked out great. I think what was unique about Mexico City that I haven't seen too much of is for a lot of these street vendors, you get your food, you eat it, and then when you return the tray, that's when you pay for it. Mm. Whereas I'm used to, for a street vendor, you give them your money, they hand you the food, and then you're off and do your own thing. So that was pretty common practice for a lot of the street vendors that we went to. The other one that stands out is the Chilaquiles place. That's on a street corner. I forget what it's called. Something Chilaquiles, and it has the word for corner. La Esquina?
La Esquina. Mm-hmm.
La Esquina. And it's literally a street corner where they sling Chilaquiles tortas.
La Esquina de Chilaquil.
There you go.
Perfect. It's literally the corner of Chilaquil. But they make a Chilaquiles torta, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of fried tortillas and a green Chilaquiles with chicken in it. And there's some other spread and sauces in there. They put it in a hollowed out torta. And they wrap it all, twist it up in a little plastic bag, and that's it. And they give you some napkins. Super simple, like $2 or something.
Nice.
For breakfast chilaquiles. And that was very unique. Never had a chilaquiles in a sandwich before, but it worked really well. Super delicious. Yeah. Pro tip, if you go there, there was a woman who was hollowing out the torta bread, and she's scooping out the insides into a bin. That bin is not a trash can. That's all I have to say.
Context?
That is all.
Okay.
Lessons
You're never
been
allowed
learned.
back. I see.
Too much trouble. Just a couple now.
That's right. Just a couple of ignorant Americans walking by.
Yeah, I will say, like, I mean, the stuff we're talking about, it's interesting that these are the highlights because these were kind of like the one-offs. Like, this was the one chilaquila torta we had, or like Jenny's quesadilla. Like the stuff we had a ton of was really just like tacos. Like we had probably like 2 to 4 different taco places per day almost.
Mhm.
And they were all really good, but it's just interesting that the ones that stand out were like the not tacos.
Mhm.
Yeah, Al Pastor tacos. We did visit a bakery. Actually, no, we stopped by 2 bakeries in downtown, like I guess their downtown area. It's just like, imagine it's like a Porto's except unstructured. So actually, sorry, it's like a 89 degrees except enormous. So you kind of just walk around this massive complex, and there's pastries on every wall, and then every shelf has pastries. And then there's a bunch of counters in the center, and those have pastries. And then the trays that you get at 89 degrees, in lieu of a tray, you get this huge metal sheet that you use to put your pastries on top of. Solid metal sheet. Yep. And there's like people of all walks of life, of all ages in there carrying all these pastries. And just like, man, the upper body strength of some of these people is impressive.
Yeah, they take
That
their
was a
dessert
cool experience.
between like the bakeries, the churros, the hot chocolates, ice cream, fruits, like drinks. Like they have a lot of sweets. But yeah, I mean, I think part of it is like just the culture of like whenever they meet up for events, they bring a ton of people, so they're gonna bring a ton of pastries, and works for me.
Right. It's kind of like what you said earlier, Daniel. Like everything when you were talking about eating burgers and smash burgers and how there's all been quality things that you can't really tell if there's anything necessarily bad in there. They kind of have the same standard. And that's kind of how I felt with a lot of the places I went to, because all the tacos are good. The quesadillas are good. Other than the elote place, like everything was delicious. Like they all started to kind of blend together. It's the same basic ingredients of some kind of flour or some kind of corn-based tortilla, some protein, something acidic like a salsa, something fatty like a crema. And they all were kind of just different building blocks, different ways of putting it together, but they all came together really well, and they all balanced really well. They're all really tasty. It's just hard to think of like the unique things, or the things that are standing out, or the really unique things are just very different from everything else we ate. That's not to discount everything else we ate. It was all delicious. We just ate way too much to be able to recount it all. We had a taco crawl one day, and I think I can't even remember how many tacos we ate. It was like 6 or 7. I think we went to 5 places in just 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. It was a lot. We had a lot. It was all delicious.
And how long did you guys stay? How long was your visit?
We got there, was it Thursday we landed, and then left on Tuesday, I want to say. So
Yeah.
it was like 4 full days and then 2 travel days on each end.
Do you think that was enough time to be able to visit what you wanted, and and appreciate all the things that you had over there?
I personally thought that was like the exact right amount of time. I think it was like the night before was the night where I was like, I've like hit the wall on the food and kind of out of other things to do. So like, yeah, going home tomorrow morning sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Were there more restaurants we could have tried? Absolutely. Did we hit everything on our list? Not even close. But by that last day, you're kind of just like, stay with Daniel, just like, yeah, I think I'm good. I'm ready to go back home and detox for a while.
Yeah. Nice. So you guys mentioned a restaurant that was a Contra Mar. I did want to kind of get a little into that, a little more about your take on the experience and things there, because like you said, Daniel, kind of lead us to some of the other things we wanted to talk about. But tell us about that meal and what people can expect or look forward to if visiting there.
So the vibe of the restaurants, it's in a pretty bougie upscale part of town. So like if you walk in there, you're gonna think you're walking into any other hip LA high ceiling, like busy place. It's like just one giant dining room. People are talking. It's loud. The wait staff are hustling though. Like, I mean, they've got tons of wait staff and they're just going like up and down. I mean, the place is super popping. But yeah, I mean, you could totally think like you were in LA. And then the food is not to steal maybe John's thunder there, but like, cause he was the big proponent of order as much on the menu as possible. But the food was delicious. It was a good call. Very, very seafood based, but delicious.
That same attitude was why we got so tired of Mexico City too so quickly.
Oh man.
John's fault, yeah.
Yeah. But it was good for this restaurant.
Okay. So tell me about some of the things that, you would get there. Or that you would have someone get there if they...
So their most famous item is a tuna tostada. I guess maybe famous being like, this is the one that, if you go on TripAdvisor or wherever, or Google reviews, this is the one everyone's like, got to get the tuna tostada.
Is it look like this?
That is exactly what it looks like. Good fight, good bullet. And yeah, it's pretty much, people are right on the money. Like, you could go in and order just those and I'd be happy. For me, it's like the exact flavor I want from a tuna tostada. Like, the tuna's super fresh. Had like a ponzu sauce on there, like, so it was, a little bit citrusy. Avocado, the tostada itself was really nice and crispy. So there wasn't, I don't think there was anything in there that was particularly like, oh wow, I've never had this before, or this is like such a surprise. But it was like, in my head, exactly what I think of when I want a tuna tostada, and just really, really good.
Mm. Do you agree, John?
Yes.
Nice. Any other notable dishes there?
Well, so I was going to say on that tostada, kind of like what Daniel said, it's just everything works together so well. Like, especially if you look at the picture, it looks pretty simple. The tuna is cut in sheets. It looks like sheets. They're not cubed or anything, so it's not a ceviche style cut. It's almost like a sashimi that you forgot to slice down the middle the long way, and you just kind of just placed it onto this tostada. Yeah. And everything just works really, really well together. It's citrusy, it's fatty. The fish itself is super fresh, super buttery. It just comes together really well. You get all the textures, crunchy, creamy, fatty. You get all the flavors, savory, sweetness, citrusy. I don't know. It's perfect. It's really simple, but it was amazing. And then you were asking about other dishes. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying for that particular dish, what would be the equivalent, U.S. price?
The equivalent U.S. price, like what did it convert to?
Yeah.
Don't remember how much it was on you.
Does the spreadsheet?
Is that not in your slide deck you had pulled up, Angelo?
It's not my slide deck. I mean, Daniel has the spreadsheet.
Yeah, but didn't you just have a roll of
the itinerary, not the bill?
Correct.
Well, we'll look that up and we'll follow up with that. But go ahead, John. What other things did you want to highlight there?
Something else that we had that was delicious was the octopus, and I don't really remember.
So good. That's delicious octopus.
I don't remember how. It was grilled and fired. It had a bit of a char on it, but I don't remember what it was called on the menu, or there's a specific name for the dish.
Yeah,
it's just the octopus itself, which is super tender, super buttery. Sometimes you get octopus and it fights back as you try to eat it. This one is just submissive, and you can just tear through it.
Got it.
It was perfectly cooked. The char added a nice flavor to it, and it came with a sauce that was a bit of sweetness, savory. Again, I can't remember what any of the things were called, but it was a definite standout.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm giving you as non-specific descriptions as I can, because that's all I can remember.
Absolutely, that's all.
Check out Contramar. Check out the octopus dish.
Okay.
Ours did not look like that. This one looks a little fresh in that they didn't cut anything, but I can guarantee you they cut it into much more manageable pieces than this.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Yeah, that one looks like they literally just put it from the bay on the plate, but ours was a little more.
Right. Yes. Yes. That looks a little bit more like sea to table concept. Ours was sea to kitchen to table.
Got it. Okay. Good. Do you think that there are a lot of similar restaurants like this as far as the quality or anything? First in Mexico City, are there similar types of restaurants out there that you would have also considered visiting if you had the chance, or was it just Contramar? Like that's
for seafood, or you mean just in general?
I think for this type of restaurant, yeah, like so it's seafood.
I think at this price point, there's a lot of restaurants in Mexico City in those like more touristy neighborhoods that people coming from the U.S. are probably going to stay in. Like there's a ton of these kinds of like by probably Mexico City standards, like high end restaurants, but it comes out to maybe like 40, 50 USD a person.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of restaurants at that price point. We heard about Contramar from friends and the internet, so like that was one of our priorities to go there. And I could say they were absolutely right. Like it was delicious. But we focused a lot on like street food on our trip. This was kind of our one like nice, sit down place to go to. But I think you could kind of reverse it almost and like do a trip to Mexico City where you're just trying out these sorts of restaurants, and you could totally make a trip out of it. There's a ton.
Good to know. So now that you've you had your taste of Mexico City, let's say with street food, would you say that you would how would you compare that scene to what we have here in LA?
Ooh, good question. I think LA, we're fortunate enough to have like we're pretty close to the border, so like we definitely have pretty solid Mexican food, and we have there's a lot of taco spots you can go to and enjoy and get really good food. I think to me the main difference is probably just the small things like the variety. Like we have a certain amount of taco places, and then because of that there's a certain amount of like, oh, these are the really good taco places. Whereas in Mexico City it felt a little more like, oh, I could literally just walk like 2 more blocks and boom, there's another really good taco place. Versus LA where I have to put in a little more effort to be like, oh, that's the good one everyone's talking about.
I see. Interesting. So you felt in the areas, that you were visiting there, it was very like accessible, much more. Yeah, there's just a lot more that's just easily reachable and to go to. Yeah. Yeah,
and then price is like the big winner. It's just going to eat at these places and walking like you do your taco crawl and you're like, oh, we spent like $20 to eat at 5 places. Like, oh, okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time. John, you had any other thoughts on that?
I would say kind of along the same lines as Daniel is just abundance. So there are a lot of great places in LA, but you do have to get in your car and to go visit them and seek them out. Whereas in Mexico City, street vending is a very common practice, and you don't have to walk very far to try the next great thing. And that's was kind of the cool experience about it. Was literally you could put the crawl in taco crawl because you're just walking from place to place. Obviously, we didn't necessarily do all that much walking because we had a list of things that we wanted to try. So we ended up catching Ubers to go from place to place. But you can see plenty of vendors everywhere you went, especially in certain parts of town, like Roma Norte had a lot of street vendors. The area that we were staying in was kind of like the Beverly Hills of Mexico City, was what it was described to me afterwards when I told people we stayed there. So a lot of restaurants, they were just more sit-down restaurants. But again, if you explore into the broader city, there's just abundance of vendors, and it's just a matter of picking and choosing, and everything was delicious. I found the price of the tostada.
Okay.
So for 4 pieces, it's 345 pesos. And I believe the conversion was 17 to 1.
Yeah.
So it works out to be about
$20.
$20
Okay.
for 4 pieces, so $5 a piece. But again, this was a little quote unquote higher end, and it was because you can get tacos for like as low as like 30 cents. So this is a sit down restaurant, but you pay for the quality. If this was in LA, like a Bessie was doing this, it would not be $20 for 4 of these.
Yeah. I was just thinking that, like, I could easily see a restaurant in LA charging 30 or 35 for these.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
Yeah.
each, but yeah.
Hopefully not each. Or maybe if they were, that's probably not a restaurant I'm going to. But
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Not naming any names, Nobu, but yes, it's very possible.
Well, good to hear. You guys have anything else to add about Mexico City before we move on?
Fun fact:
go for it.
the Spanish word for tuna is just tuna backwards. Sorry, no, I can't do this right.
A nut?
It's not tuna. No. It's not quite right. It's just a rearranging of the letters.
Like
it's atun. Never mind. That played out much better in my head. But then as soon as you said a nut, I was like, I really messed that up.
Can't go wrong either way.
My one thing I'll say about Mexico City is that, so I mean, we talked about other food, but the unsung hero was really the churros. Like, I think in total across the 4 days, we probably ordered like 40 different churros, or like to eat between the 4 of us. So it's probably like 10 churros a person by the time we left. And I have no regrets about that. That was fantastic. That was delicious.
Nice.
And they're so cheap compared to like Disneyland churros. So yeah, definitely go to Mexico City. It may be like a touristy thing to eat the churros, but goddamn, they're good.
And do you eat the churros on their own, or do you have it with that chocolate sauce as well?
You can get it with the chocolate sauce, or like even like hot chocolate they sell it with. But to be honest, just plain was
just as good. All right, good to know. Well, thanks for sharing about that. We I'm sure our listeners would be very eager to visit Mexico City and try out all the good eats there. Speaking of which, it kind of brings us to kind of the other main thing we wanted to talk about. We talked about the restaurant Contramar as far as being a seafood restaurant, and that kind of reminded me that we wanted to kind of talk about a meal that we had recently, and kind of share a little bit about our thoughts on that. And that restaurant is Holbox, and that will be the official pronunciation of this restaurant. But I guess however you decide to pronounce is on you. But I just want to set that straight for the few.
Do they have an official pronunciation guide out there for this?
I'm not sure about the guide, but just looking up on on videos and stuff about that highlight the restaurant. That's how I hear it pronounced. So. That's what I'm going to go with.
Oh, okay. So there's an island in Mexico with the same name, and right. It is pronounced Holbox. Okay, all right.
That's what it's named after. You're right. Yes. Yeah. So.
Okay.
But however you pronounce as we go along, again, that's on you. So Holbox is a restaurant that serves high quality seafood, very thoughtful preparation on that. Their restaurant here in LA I guess would be really what would that area be? Kind of Exposition Park.
Yeah, I was going to say Exposition Park.
It's near USC. So, depending on, where you're coming from, it could be accessible. It could be a ways away. I don't know. But some people may think also it may not be I don't know, the one of the most reputable areas necessarily, but if you find your way out there, you would want to make your way to the Mercado La Paloma, and it's that is a food hall that you will find a variety of restaurants, including Holbox. It's a restaurant that's received a lot of acclaim. recently and in the last few years. I think they started, 2016, 17, and since then they've received a lot of nods from Michelin guides. I think last year they received LA Times Restaurant of the Year. But again, I think it just speaks to, I think, the quality and the type of food I think that they're serving out of this this space. So I do want to also shout out to Jamie, since I have her to thank for introducing us. I think Maicha, we had taken that trip out there. We were doing one of the taco crawls with her, and she was showing us around to some of these spots, and this was one of them. And so times that I've visited since, I think I've told these guys, I've always left impressed, usually because of where you're at, what you're paying for, and what you're getting. Considering all those factors, it's just something that really does leave you impressed, something that with just a really good meal. So we wanted to kind of talk about the dinner that we had. This is particularly a tasting menu that they offer. And John, make sure to thank Carmen for making that reservation. But she able to find a time for us to get out there. And I think as far as cost and what they're serving, we'll get into that. I thought it was a pretty good value of what you're getting for your meal. So before we get into the meal again, I did want to kind of start off that there's a little story, at least from that I'll appreciate. But I arrived there a little early, sitting down there. It was pretty busy, it's a food hall, so a lot of common spaces, tables and whatnot. And I did kind of have a little celebrity sighting, and celebrity as far as in the food and podcast space. There's a podcast that I listen to, and I'm sure many do as well, called Air Jordan. And the host there, Mr. Jordan Oken, was out and about with his crew, and they were, I believe, they were also enjoying the tasting menu, but I think in different circumstances. So I got to see it. But again, as celebrity sightings go, generally, I don't know what your thoughts are, but usually you don't necessarily disturb celebrities while they're in the wild or something. It's just not worth the time.
Yeah, I agree. I usually more just kind of like, whoever's next to me, we talk excitedly, and then for years after, I can tell people, be like, oh my God, I saw Jason Bateman at the movie theaters. And so I'll forever have that memory that he has no knowledge of, but to me it's a sacred thing.
Exactly. And I know after their meal they were walking around the market and the hall, and sure enough, their party and him, they passed by where I was, and I just kind of looked at them, and I just had to smile because just a nice sight, just a good appreciation of the stuff that they're putting out there. So as far as the meal goes, it's a menu, it's a tasting menu, so the menu does change and does rotate, but let's talk about some of the things that we had. I do have some of the some things we had, so let's jog our memories, and let's start off with this here. This was the conchas, I believe. And this had the oysters and the gooey duck. So either you want to jump in and kind of just give me your thoughts on this dish here.
I was gonna say I love oysters, so that was already like a great immediate win. Gooey duck, it's not something that you get often, so it's usually kind of out of place. I'm like, okay, if they're making gooey duck, they probably have like a pretty good idea how to do it. And this was super light, super refreshing, really yummy. And then, it was a really good start to the meal.
Can either of you remind us on what exactly gooey duck is?
It looks almost like a heart, but in like seafood form. I don't know. Does that sound weird?
It's very difficult to describe without changing the tune of this podcast.
It's not that different, not far off. No.
It's a sea creature that lives in a shell, but it's rather large. And I think I saw him shuck the whole thing out of the shell. So I think when I don't know if this is a bivalve. Is that the right term for this?
I think so.
But so it's a bivalve creature, and I have no idea what that means. But I think he ended up shucking the entire thing. So there's a portion of the creature that protrudes out of the shell, and I think that's the one that does all the feeding. And then there's the body itself that's in the shell. The chef took the entire thing out and basically sashimi sliced everything up and threw it in like a citrus dressing. And like Daniel said, it was just very fresh, very soft. I think that's the theme of everything here. It was just very fresh, and it just had a nice, pleasant texture. It took on the flavor of the sauce that was tossed in. I thought there was like yellowtail or something else that was in there. I can't remember what fish was mixed in there. But yeah, it was a nice way to start the meal. Very light, refreshing. The oysters, the one on the left was from the West Coast. The one on the right was from the East Coast. They were both very tasty. Didn't have any ocean flavor that you might sometimes encounter when you have oysters. But everything worked really well together.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a good light way to start off what was to come. I wanted to also mention that the chef and owner, that name is Gilberto Cetina, and he works out of that space. And also another notable restaurant in that hall is Chichen Itza, and I believe it's his family that also kind of operates that space. Oh. So it's kind of nice to know that it keeps it all in the family, and just continue to grow over there. So very good. So let's so that was how we started. Let's move on to this next dish, the crudo de rocotte. So I'm just reading off a copy of the menu here. It was a local line caught ikejime vermilion rockfish with a grilled lemon vinaigrette. So Daniel, I think you were a little familiar more with the technique of ikejime. Can you kind of explain a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So it's It's a technique from Japan. So it came up when at some point went to Japan and we're watching like sushi videos. So that's how I heard about it the first time. They'll tap like a spike through the fish to like kill it ASAP. And that way, like, I guess as it dies, the rigor mortis doesn't really set in. So that way it's a little more tender. The fish meat is a little more tender, which hopefully makes it yummier. But it's kind of a different preparation, and I guess they did a lot of their fish that way. He was pretty proud of it. But I'll say, yeah, that dish was delicious for a fish that like you can see at 99 Ranch, and you're like, I don't know about you guys, but when I see seafood at 99 Ranch, and I'm like, yeah, I'll probably take that home and like it'll be fine. But this was like, oh shit, this is gourmet. This is amazing.
Yeah, and really, just really simple, simple preparation, but just brought out, just this nice fish flavor really well. What do you think, John?
Not much else to add. I mean, it was citrus and fresh fish. It was all like ceviche, but it wasn't cured in the citrus. It was just a accompaniment, but very nice, very fresh, very light flavor.
Good.
Had some sweetness to it. Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, nice. So from there, we move on to this next item here, the raspada de einat. I mean atún, John. Atún.
Yeah. You gotta be careful how you say einat because it sounds like something else.
No matter how you slice it.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not slicing, but
depends on how many nuts you eat. Anyways.
Yeah. So this was a Baja California bluefin tuna ceviche with a house-made tostada raspada, avocado puree, and an arbol peanut sauce. The chef was explaining the technique and process of preparing a tostada raspada, which is a tostada, but in which it's laid on the grill on the heating element or to cook on one side, right? But it doesn't get flipped. In fact, the uncooked portion of the masa is scraped off, and it creates a thinner product overall. It's light, but there's still a crunch to it, but kind of like a delicate crunch. And so that's topped here with the tuna and all the other things we mentioned here. So tell me what you thought about this dish.
Delicious. I think it's very deceiving, like how much effort goes into making that tostada. Because I thought he had said after they scraped off that uncooked masa, they let it cure or dehydrate for 12 hours.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, they fried it. And so the texture of that tostada is almost like a rice cake. Like it's a really, really light, very fluffy, but also very crunchy. And it's got corn flavor to it because it is a masa. But yeah, I mean, just like everything else we've been talking about, citrus notes, fresh tuna. They had a huge chunk of tuna that they were filleting and cutting in front of us. Everything was being prepared in front of us. We're seated at a bar style seating with glass. I don't want to say window, like a glass divider, if you will, a glass case. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. The glass case, and behind it, that's where they're doing all their prep. So you can see everything that goes into it. But the tostada itself was definitely the most effort that was required to prepare this dish. Everything else was a matter of just preparing the fish fresh, putting in the citrus, putting in the seasonings, and then tossing it. But the tuna was delicious. The avocado spread was great. And I don't know, it's just like another well-balanced tostada.
Yeah, it was impressive how he spent. So each dish he goes into all the details of where did the fish come from, who fished it, all that. And after he spent a minute talking about that, I was like, okay, we got it. And then he spent maybe 3 minutes talking about the tostada part. I was like, damn, all right, this tostada is really where the efforts.
Yeah.
This is no just casual tostada. It's every single component took a lot of effort. But yeah, I mean, when that tostada came out in my head, like we just talked about, Conchamar had an awesome tuna tostada. So I was like, fuck yeah, this is where it's at. Where we're getting down to business here. And this was different, but just as amazing. Yeah. Really, really good.
Totally. Yeah, that's good to hear. Just kind of on a side note, the just because of the arbol peanut sauce, there are a few different salsas and things that they prepare at the restaurant that are really good to try. I think this is one of them, but there are other varieties as well, different with different kind of intensities of heat, different flavors that pair well with the different items that they would get on the regular menu. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Just whenever you're there and you see a set of bottles with the different sauces, please make sure to try them. The now next up is this. Okay, let's see. I got ceviche de erizo con jurel, and this one I think we had a little fun with this actually. If you guys can recall, this is live Santa Barbara sea urchin and a Baja California yellowtail ceviche in there. Yeah, that was an interesting one. But go ahead, guys, talk about this.
A+ presentation. I'll say that.
It was definitely some were a little more excited than others. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, very. Oh, well, I shouldn't be the one that follows on that comment because they associate me with that commentary, but he's referring to the urchin itself. Just like everything else, it's prepared in front of you. So he's got this huge bin of sea urchins that they take out of the fridge, and he's got this device that looks like it's built to split sea urchins open. And so it goes into the center of the sea urchin, it splits them in half, and then you can watch the chef go through each urchin and pick out all of the innards of the urchins, as well as removing all the stuff that you're not supposed to eat or maybe aren't very pleasant to eat. They mix a ceviche to go with it that goes into the urchin, and then it's topped with the actual sea urchin itself. And because it's so fresh, some of our sea urchins were still doing some waves of their spines during the entirety of the meal. If you weren't paying attention, you would not have noticed, but they were definitely still moving as you ate them from the inside. This is starting to sound very wrong, but yes, very good.
Yeah, agreed. It's, I mean, obviously fresh like everything else. The uni, I'll say I like uni, but I know not everybody does. I know it's a bit of a kind of a different flavor, different texture. But I think even if you're someone who doesn't love uni, like that, the way it combines with that dish is just so good between the freshness of the yellowtail, a little bit like, again, citrus, and then the uni just kind of adds some creaminess and like a little bit of light sweetness to it. It's a really excellent combo.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's probably one of the best unis I've had in recent memory. Just
Interesting.
Great texture, great flavor. There's sometimes you get uni with bad aftertaste, ocean aftertaste. This one is just perfectly clear. It's like a fresh mountain spring, but uni.
Now, the next one is another tostada dish that we were given, but in a different preparation, and that is tostada de pâté con callo. And this is a kanpachi head pâté, Hokkaido scallops with chili oil, chives, and on the tostada raspada that we saw earlier. So this was I think a different masa, a blue masa in this case, as we can see here, but layered again with the pâté and the scallops. I think we took very nicely to this. I think we're all very quite impressed. But yeah, this was a good bite. What do you think, guys?
I mean, I feel like we should just emphasize for point that pâté, it's kanpachi head. Like, I don't know, like they're a very eco-conscious restaurant, and they're very much aware of, how to be sustainable and how to use all their ingredients. I don't think I've ever been in a restaurant that's like, oh yeah, we grinded up our fish head and like made pâté out of it. Like that was new, but
I see.
This was phenomenally delicious. So like totally works. The only knock I have about this dish is while he was preparing it, he put like all the scallops on one plate, and I really thought I was about to get a plate of 12 scallops.
Same here.
So getting downsized to this was a little disappointing, but that's really my only complaint.
We wanted a whole plate of pâté and scallops. Wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely an adjustment period when you come to terms with what's put in front of you.
You have to accept.
Yeah, I mean, not to spoil the rest of this podcast, or at least the recollection of this meal, but this is my worth it winner from the entire meal. To me, it was my favorite item. And yes, it was a blue corn tostada, so similar preparation, just with a different type of corn. But everything just worked so well together. It just sang delicious. And the scallops were super fresh. Again, I keep saying this, and maybe it's because I just haven't had fresh scallops, and I haven't had uni in a long time, but this is probably the best scallop I've had in recent memory.
Okay. Well, Chef is really bringing up his game, so. Yeah,
the sauce also on it like complemented perfectly. Like it was a little bit spicy, but like a little bit oily, a little bit like it totally worked. And and I guess for anyone who maybe I didn't make it clear enough. For anyone who's listening, is like fish head. Like he says it's good, but fish head sounds very fishy. Like no, it's actually not that seafoody flavor. Like it's definitely more pâté than fish head.
Yeah, they must have their own technique of making it. I mean, the way it is, just that good. Can you guys remind me what exactly what pâté is usually made out of? I actually don't quite know.
Usually duck liver or liver.
Oh, I see.
I think, trying to remember, for Vietnamese sandwiches, they also have pate in there.
That's right.
And I think that's chicken liver, maybe? Don't quote me. I'm not a foodie. I have not been to 90 plus establishments in the last however many podcasts.
Okay.
I think liver is the common one. It's, or, like, I think you could also do like a ground up, like pork or something. But yeah, I think liver is the most common.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Burma goat has their goat liver mousse.
Oh, that's right. That's
basically a pate.
Got it. Okay, cool. So we could probably stop from there since we agree that was like the best.
Yeah, the rest of it was forgettable. No, I'm kidding.
Damn.
I'm kidding.
So we're about halfway through, maybe a little halfway through. So the next dish from this menu was the chochoyotes, which basically is like, as it says, basically like masa dumplings. So we have some mussels here, Hope Ranch mussels with the blue corn chochoyotes, a chili atole rojo, and almond pipián, which is like the sauce there. So, yeah. This was again just another nice thoughtful bite. That sauce is, I think the way he described it was not quite soup, not quite sauce. It's like some texture in between. But yeah, what did you guys think of this?
We transitioned from cold items to now hot prepared items.
That's right.
The first before. I thought it was nice. It's, I don't know. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Just nice balance of flavors. The blue corn dumpling. I think he said this was the stuff that they had scraped off, or was this the next dish? Well, I know they're not wasting it, so it probably could have been the stuff that they scraped off from the preparation of tostada was used to form these dumplings. Was accompanied with these mussels, and we kind of just ate them all together with this pipián sauce, and it was really nice. The blue corn masa had a nice savory sweetness to it. It was not, I say sweetness lightly. It definitely was not sweet by any means, but it had that slight hint of sweetness that helped balance everything else. But it was tasty. Never had anything quite like it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely my first like Mexican dumpling I've had, but I need more. Yeah, I would definitely get more.
So open-faced dumpling.
Yeah.
And deconstructed.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like, there's this, again, kind of this joining of different types of techniques and a little bit of culture intersection here with some of these dishes, especially with this next one. Although we can say that the tostada, with the pate is probably one of the favorites. This next one is probably also one of the more unique ones, to be honest. And that's the tamal de abulon, the abalone tamale, basically. So it's abalone with the masa colada and the liver sauce. So I think, John, to what you were saying earlier, I think this is probably what they were using, right? They were using the scraped off masa from the raspada, and they were using it for this dish, I think.
Yeah, this one definitely was from the tuna raspada, the yellow corn masa they had scraped off, and they shucked these abalones and filled their shells with this masa mixture. And then the chef had mentioned that the abalone, the perfect temperature to cook them for him was the 12-minute mark. And so he was trying to figure out how to cook them delicately without overcooking them. So they landed on steaming them. And actually, you can kind of get a sense of it from this photo, but underneath that entire dish is a banana leaf, I think it was. And when they took them out to prepare them for us, they're actually all wrapped up like little tamales, or even like Chinese tamales. They came out in these little packets of banana leaves, and he had to unfold every single one of them and remove the contents, which was the abalone shell, the masa, and the abalone itself. So they'd steamed that whole contraption for 12 minutes, and this was a very pleasant surprise for me. I really enjoyed this dish. The masa, after that steam bath that it sits in, was nice and fluffy, great flavor, and then just the abalone was cooked to perfection.
Yeah, I I'm usually not a big abalone fan, which I know that's sacrilege. I know it's a delicacy. Every time my in-laws come to visit, that's like the main thing. They're like, okay, we'll make dinner and then we'll make abalone. It's time to celebrate. And I was like, all right, that's fine. Like everyone else likes it. I should eat some too. But this, I was like, it's like, oh damn, it's really really good.
Yeah, this made you look forward to
yes,
eat more abalone.
yeah, totally changed my opinion of what abalone could be. The texture between the masa is, it like works out, as John was saying, it works out to be the exact right amount of time to cook, right consistency. The abalone itself, sometimes I feel like, and maybe a lot of other people like this, but abalone can be a little bit kind of rubbery, a little bit hard to eat. But the way this was cooked, it was a little bit softer, but not so soft that it kind of blended into the masa. Like it was still a very distinct texture from the masa, and then the flavor itself, like the flavor was still abalone, but then it just blended so well, and it was excellent.
Totally. Yeah, John, I don't know if you recall. Actually, I don't know in what other context, but you remember we had that we tried abalone at Bistro 1968. They had the abalone there. Obviously, not in the same level or context or whatever, but I think those were one of the few times we've able to appreciate the use of abalone. But this one definitely took it to a different level. So
yeah, it's not a seafood that I particularly seek out, and Daniel and I share the same in-laws, so I've had the same abalone, and yeah, this is not something that I'm chasing. So it was a very pleasant surprise having it here. I can't even remember the last time I had abalone besides 1986 or 68, whatever that place is called.
Right. Let's petition to Chef to bring this on the regular menu, and then we'll enjoy it from there. Or at least if ever we go to another tasting menu, to just include that there again. So, all right. So we're nearly through here, but we got a few more to get through. The next one is one of the few tacos that we've had on this tasting menu. Surprise, surprise. But this next one is the taco de jaiba, which is a Dungeness crab with the smoked yellowtail with Oaxaca cheese and a crab butter salsa macha. So this was kind of a, for crab and everything, it was a pretty rich kind of dish with everything on there. The salsa macha with the cheese, you can see kind of that cheese crust, cheese skirt there on the tortilla. But yeah, it was for being a crab, for being a taco. I think, as the chef suggested, that you do need a fork and knife to get through this. So, but it didn't last too long. Let's put it that way.
This was definitely not taco to be eaten with hands, but like you said, the crab in there was filling. Like you could taste it. It was very crab heavy taco, but made it quite delicious. I think, to me, this might be one of the weaker parts of the meal, and that's like in context, it's like there were so many A+ dishes and A dishes. This one was maybe A-. It's still really good, but it just didn't quite have the same flair that some of the other ones did.
Okay.
But it was, like I said, that's all within the context of not to spoil the ending. Like every single dish was amazing, and this was the only one that was great instead of amazing.
I see.
I will say the flavor doesn't do it justice, in the sense that once you cut into this taco, it's literally just a brick of crab. And I've never had so much. Well, I've never had a crab taco, let alone a solid chunk of crab in there. I think the last time I had that much crab in any dish was in Thailand at J5 when we had their crab omelet. And the way she had prepared that was just, it was literally the main ingredient crab, add some eggs for flavor and color, and binding, but otherwise it was all crab. I enjoyed this dish a lot, but I think it's because also I'm very partial to crab. And I think it was a Dungeness crab, which is something my parents would make every so often growing up. So I had a bit of an affinity for it. I know how much work it is to go through and pick out all that crab to get into that taco. It definitely wasn't the most flavorful of everything that we had, but to me, it was unique in that I just never had a crab-based taco before. So it was a fun surprise. And then, I had to use a fork and knife because it is a bit of a mess to work your way through. But like Daniel said, like it's maybe not the strongest of everything here, but that's again in the context of just everything here, which everything was phenomenal.
Okay. All right, good. Well, let's talk about this last dish then. This one is the camarones a la talla. That's your grilled Santa Barbara prawns with salsa verde and a cucumber salad. So I remember enjoying this. I don't remember this was not. I think we had asked partway through. This was not shrimp to be eaten whole, right? I think we had to leave the shell or something.
Yes, you were supposed to. They had the peel, or like the shell was on and you were supposed to peel it, which I had eaten the first one before somebody asked that question. But I'll say the shell was still pretty flavorful, so not the worst mistake to make.
Yeah. So you eat the shrimp, the body, including the contents of the head. I don't know. Just want to make sure. Are we on board with that? With shrimp head contents as well?
In this case, yes.
Okay. Are there cases where that's averted?
Yes.
In what cases?
Any Chinese buffet that serves a whole shrimp in this fashion, I would advise against eating the head.
Okay.
It seems like a pretty good life lesson to follow.
All right.
I think at this point of the meal, I was just so full. I could barely remember what was going on.
Wow.
I was so full. I could not remember what was going on.
I don't know.
I don't have too many recollections about this. It was tasty is all I remember.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then,
I thought the grill kind of flavor on it was excellent. Yeah, the fish head actually was good. Like to John's point, sometimes you have the fish head and you're just like, I just had salt water. Like this, you do not have that. You do not have that feeling at all with this one. You're like, oh yeah, like more shrimp flavor, great.
Yeah, totally.
And then also like the little cucumber salad was really nice with it too. I've kind of played off it well.
Yeah.
Not pictured is the skewer that they were that was pushed through the entire length of the shrimp. One, to kill the shrimp, and then two, to help keep it straight when it was being grilled.
Did they?
And then part of the prep process was removing the skewer and then getting the salad on top of it.
I see. Did they show that while they were preparing it? I guess I missed that. Okay.
I mean, they didn't show the prep side of it where they killed the shrimp. They showed the post-killing side of it. So
with the skewer,
with the skewer, right, still attached, and then they had to go through each one of them. And the chef and actually one of the sous chefs tag team that there was just so many of the shrimps to get through. So
interesting.
They had to work together to remove all the skewers and then get it plated. Okay.
Nice. So we're technically done with the tasting menu, but what is a full menu and meal without some dessert? And I remember when this was brought out, it wasn't talked about or explained or anything, but I do remember that Daniel was quite excited when this was.
I felt like they read my mind when they brought this out. It was.
I think so.
It was like the whole meal was amazing. I was like, man, they're like. They just know exactly what I want to eat. And then when this one came out, it was like, yeah, this is confirmed. Like they have hacked into my brain and they're just like triggering all the things that make me happy.
Let's release all the endorphins here. In this case, we're talking about some churros with some chocolate sauce as well. I think it's, with all the nice savory things that we've enjoyed, it's nice to have some sweet to round it out. So, I don't know. I enjoyed these. I noticed, it was a nice crunchy, outside cinnamony and everything, but definitely I think we had some observation that the inside was definitely more wet, definitely more of a wet batter in there. But I think still overall pretty good. Again, with the chocolate sauce, it's not as terribly sweet chocolate. It's like a darker chocolate, so it's not too powerful. in sweetness. But I think it's just a nice addition to have. So what do you guys think? You guys agree?
That's pretty much right on. Like, I'll say, for anyone going to Mexico City, like I think their churros are more fried, which turned out to be better to my taste.
Mm-hmm.
But still, like, what the exact right finisher to the meal. You have some fantastic entree, seafood, etc., and then boom, churro. That's all you need.
Nice.
I think the unique thing about this churro that, not that I'm a churro connoisseur by any means, so don't take this as some kind of wisdom, but this is the only churro I've ever had where the center of it was hollowed out the entire way through.
Oh, right.
So that theoretically, if you wanted to use it as a straw, you could. It's not like it's completely hollowed out, but it's a narrow opening that extends through the entire thing.
And I don't know if chocolate sauce.
Maybe. Did not have the presence of mind to do that. But maybe.
if you haven't already, drunken through the whole, thing there,
If you didn't take the shot yet, fair.
Exactly. Nice.
Curious.
Good. Yeah, that's right. Good observation. So that kind of wraps up the tasting menu at Holbox, and let's kind of we've kind of alluded to a number of things already, but let's get your thoughts on maybe the memorable one. Let's say top 3 here. What would you say would be 3 memorable dishes from here?
Ooh. So tricky. I think the 2 that I have to include for sure are scallop tostada and the abalone tamale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The abalone tamale may not be, that I might have liked other dishes more if I think about it, but just for the uniqueness and the surprise and the fun of it, like that one gets in there. Number 3, there's a lot of the kind of more like sashimi and tostada dishes at the start that we looked at. All like, there's a lot of dishes that could go in there at number 3 for me. I'll probably pick the tuna tostada just because I've got a thing for those, but like either the rock vermilion sashimi or the yellowtail with the uni, like those all could be
good choices. Okay. What about you, John?
Yeah, I would say my top 3 also all incorporate masa and tostada into it. So number 1 will be the scallop tostada, as I've already alluded to. The second one, same as Daniel, would be the abalone. Something about that masa when it's steamed, it's just so light and fluffy. Like it looks like a tamale, so you kind of expect the tamale texture of the masa, but it was just very unique and a very nice pairing to the abalone. And then the third masa incorporated item on my list would be the same as Daniel, that tuna tostada. I think I'm still riding the high from Mexico City, so I was just excited to see a tuna tostada. So maybe there's a little bit of a bias there, but just knowing the care and energy that required to make that tostada, coupled with a super fresh fish, was hard to beat.
Yeah, agreed. I'm probably up there with you. Yeah, definitely have to put the scallop tostada on there, the tamal, the abalone, and if I had a third, I'd probably actually go with the crab, either between the crab or the other crudo. The crab, because like you said, John, it's just such a dense, dense offering of crab, in a small package, and either that or the crudo, only because it's just a nice, simple, fresh, dish there. But those were definitely memorable. Let me get your thoughts. I think maybe you talked a little bit about how, if you can you draw, similarities between this and Contramar, if possible. What do you guys have to say about that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some similarities. I mean, they're both, kind of a Mexican seafood. I think compared to, Contramar, obviously bigger operation, less intimate, less, it's not, not a full tasting menu. So there's differences in just like how the restaurant approach. But just in terms of the flavor of the food, there's similar flavors. This whole Bosch tasting menu's not cheap, but it's relative to some other tasting menus, it's a very good value actually. I think it's actually an amazing value. But I think so. I think the food you're getting at Holbox is probably a bit better than what you're getting at Contramar. Higher price point though.
Yeah, I think if I recall, the price per person, all inclusive, probably about $130 or something for this tasting menu. So you could definitely definitely go elsewhere for more. But yeah, I think overall, again, the takeaway is, given where it's at, it's situated, its space, and then given the food and the quality that they're serving, you can definitely if you didn't know, if you had just gone to the restaurant itself, I feel like you definitely could have taken away that it was could be a higher end restaurant, and serving a higher quality, foods and dishes and things. If we like these dishes, as I said, you definitely will want to go back and try the regular menu items. They have a lot of, whether it's the tacos or the ceviche. They have, a great offering of pulpo, or octopus. But I think just like this, this here, anything you probably get from the regular menu will probably be a hit as well. So when are we going is the question, really.
I'd go very soon. I don't know if you're gonna ask this, Angela, but this meal is probably, I'm trying to replay meals from like the last year in my head, but like this may be like the best meal I've had in the last year at least. Like this was consistently, like every single dish was, like I said, amazing. For me at least, there was one dish which was great, but that's still an amazing bar to hit.
Yeah.
And again, at 130 is a person. It's definitely not cheap, but in LA, that you could end up spending a lot more, I think. So yeah, this is definitely a meal of the year for me. Like all the hype associated with Holbox is met and more.
Okay.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to your original question about comparing Contramar versus Holbox, I kind of think of Contramar. For me, it's hard to make the comparison because I think of Contramar more like a restaurant with crowd pleasers dishes. So things that you may find elsewhere, it's just maybe fresher ingredients or slight difference in the preparation. Whereas Holbox was very much a very inventive, experimental, fun, playful menu. Right. But with that said, like Daniel had said, everything just knocked it out of the park and everything was super tasty. There wasn't anything that was like, yeah, I could do without this dish here. So certainly would recommend trying the tasting menu. It's not cheap, but at the same time, you could also do much worse in LA and maybe not necessarily get the same satisfaction. The other thing I would say about the Contramar, about Holbox is that if we're sitting there going through the tasting menu, the chefs are also preparing their regular menu items in front of you. Maybe not necessarily for you, but you can watch them bring it all together, and everything else looks just as delicious. Looks very fun, very vibrant with the colors. Everything looks really fresh as well. So a really popular item was this giant ceviche dish. Seems like every other minute the guy was making a new ceviche dish. And that looked really tasty. If I had more room in the tank, I definitely would have tried something else off their a la carte menu, but I was already tapped out by dish 8 of 9. But yeah, overall, phenomenal experience. Highly recommend. Much fun, inventive ways to eat seafood.
Yeah. Definitely a special place. Lucky for LA to have a restaurant like this to showcase. High quality, thoughtful food and service, and at a great value. And in a pocket of LA that some people know, but not necessarily everyone would go out to. So maybe it just takes a little bit of adventure to get out there. So hopefully we can find time to go out there again and try the regular menu and just be wowed just all the same. And Mailto, of course, you're gonna come along with us as well, and we are going to cause massive engagement to the species of the sea there. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I want that brick of crab.
We'll have to see if Chef can make that a part of the regular menu as well, or at least a special order for us when we go out there. But I just wanted to say also that it's nice to see restaurants where the chef and the owner is is out there with the people, and he's talking, he's interacting, whether just there at least in a just kind of just interacting with the guests, or in this case just actually also preparing the food and being involved directly in the preparation and serving of the food. So sometimes too often you might find some restaurants that when they have that clout, that reputation, or they reach a certain point, they're the chefs and everything, they can be in any sort of place, sometimes taken away from from the restaurant or the space to do other things. But it's just nice to see when they are there. So really appreciate that, and really hope to look forward to more good meals there. But yeah, thanks guys for joining us, and thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. This was definitely something I was really looking forward to, and finally got to kind of get down and kind of discuss. So hopefully we get you out here again next time. I don't know.
Run.
That's good. That's a good cue. But anyway, with that said, we've come to the end of another episode. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to our few and only fans for joining us. We're excited to bring you more of our adventures with good food and good people. Just reach out. We're on Instagram. I'm at Dumb and Hungry. He is at my_chow. Why don't you just slide right in there? You can also email us at hi@dumbandhungry.com, where you can leave us your feedback and your love letters. You can also find the videos on YouTube. Won't you like, subscribe, and smash? You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else fine podcasts are served. But until next time, I'm Angelo, the Dumb and Hungry.
I'm Macho.
John?
Daniel, no social media.
Nice. And on your next food adventure, remember to try one of each.